think, deployed this belief that everyone should, independent of effort, independent of result, independent of performance, you should at least feel good about something. And my response is no. By the way, you can have a volleyball team that doesn't compete. That's good. That's the true game. But if you want to have score,
have a real team.
Have teams. Right? The bosses play back and forth. And if you're going to be in school, we can't have this system that says, yeah, it's okay. All you can do is, we can't keep you after school. No, you can't do extra homework. People can't fail. I think I'm the result of an urban, underprivileged, regular old system with a parent, one of them, who said, performance matters, and your best effort matters. And I think that that's part of the problem, where we actually have expectations that okay is good enough. So we'll just get you, everybody to okay, everybody's okay, and then we can move. Everybody's happy, we're all pleased, everybody feels really good. So now we'll go to second grade. I actually believe that there is no difference from the Indian child to the American child, except for how much emphasis we put on what's really important with these children. And I think what we're doing today, unfortunately, we don't have an infrastructure that does this well. Families have broken down, so okay, we have to now pretend that we have to create an infrastructure around that. So we'll do this. Part of the STEM work is we know that we can't make up families overnight. If you have bad parents or absent parents,
you work around this somewhere.
You have to figure out a way to work around it somewhere.
Yeah.
But you have to literally have very high expectations and put time and energy, effort into having a good outcome. That's one of the issues. We have to have teachers who are able to teach. We have to appoint people. We have to celebrate. Dean Kamen, or the guy who won the Nobel Prize in Physics, and not LeBron James, who could stand in the line and make 50,000 shots.
Yeah.
That's good too. But there's only one of him.
One guy.
Yeah, there's a lot more scientists out there, so we have to celebrate things that are good. So there's a whole part of a lot of the value chain that has to change for us to be able to be as good as the great generations were before us. And then people say to me all the time, but look, we got Google. I said, so now you're telling me we got, Serg and Larry. I said, so now you're going to give me, it's like saying, yeah, you gave me the two guys in the millions who actually figured out the solution, and by the way, some of them were emigrants. So we have to literally put in energy and effort so we can get out what we want here. And what we want are people who can contribute to society. I think a lot of the contribution can happen in science, technology, engineering, math. But teaching is fine, and whatever it is. But you can't kind of skip your way there. You can't take a shortcut. And as parents and as people who are the talented, we're sitting in this thing in the Four Seasons, so you got something here. We didn't pick you up off the street. You have something here. You have to help. You have to help. You have to get two kids, and make sure that they understand that work. This requires work and energy. It's not always going to be fun. It's not always going to be easy, but it will be overall fun and easy. At the end of the day, it's a short amount of time that you invest for a really great outcome.
Seymour Papert called this hard fun.
Hard fun.
Hard fun.
Yeah. Hard
Playing
fun.
the piano you can't sit down and play the piano. You got to work, and then it will be very fun.
Very fun. So my thing on this whole idea of innovation is that I think the good news about America is that we are still today, we're trying to change this one too, but don't get me on this subject, a country of immigrants. We are a country that actually lets people who have less in, and they actually aspire to have more. And this whole cycle of less to more is the cycle that has caused this country to be what it is today. And the good news is we still have that cycle happening. We're trying to choke off some of the immigrants, which is not the best thing in the world. But still, I'm not.
But this keeps you hopeful.
This keeps me hopeful.
The cycle, right?
And we have unbelievable unbelievable secondary schools. It's amazing. We have Stanford University, we have Caltech, we have Yale, we have Harvard, Princeton, okay, name them all. We have the SUNY system, we have the Cal State system.
Somebody said there are more great universities in Ohio than there are in Germany. One state.
We have places for you to go,
Yeah.
not only for the people who are born here, but for a lot of different people to come, get used to this country, to get friendly with this country, to innovate, to contribute. I think that's a good thing. Now we have to fix, for our side, the feeder base. And the feeder base is absolutely broken today. It's in fundamental disrepair, and so we have to fix that.
So let's get off this topic, and let me run an idea by you, see how you react to this. So at Forrester, we look at a lot of innovation. What is innovation? And we have this concept that we call Inhibition Networks. It says that because most CEOs think of innovation as being within the four walls of the company. Someone's in it's the old Xerox model actually. And there's an engineer who invents something in Xerox, and then you go out and sell that invention. So the Innovation Networks idea says that it's actually a value chain, that there's an inventor in the picture, but then there's also a transformer in the picture. I'll come back to what that transformer is. Inventor, we understand what inventor is. There's a financier in the picture, and there's a broker in the picture. Actually, Forrester might, in fact, be considered a broker. Accenture could be considered a broker. What's important in this value chain is the transformer. And that's, as an example, Apple Computer. Apple didn't invent most of what's in this device, but they found these inventions all over the world from inventors, and then they bring it all together and they transform it into a product. So it's a value chain. It's not within the four walls of the company. And the CEO of Procter & Gamble, A.G. Lafley, I'm sure you know A.G., when he got the job in 2000, he became CEO of Procter & Gamble, and he said, I want to do the math on Procter & Gamble. How many customers do we have? They have 2 billion customers, Procter & Gamble. He said, okay, how many engineers do I have? I have about 10,000 engineers who can create products for you. He did the math and said, there's no way we can create enough products with the number of engineers we have at P&G. So he went out and said, we're going to take inventions from all over the world, and we'll bring them back to the P&G and we'll transform them. In fact, they partnered with Clorox, one of their big arch enemies, on something called Press and Seal, which I don't know what that is, but it's a great cellophane, I guess. And it's now a $1 billion product. So what do you make of this idea that it won't all be invented at Xerox, but rather you could be in a value chain, and you've got to be looking all over the world for those inventions, or maybe even you may be looking for financiers to help you finance this. That it's a worldwide effort and not a U.S. effort. See, a lot of politicians get this wrong. Politicians say, draw a line around the United States and say, no ideas can come in or can come out. But the Innovation Network would say, no, we must enlarge the network, not diminish the network. How do you react to that?
So the reality of Xerox today and even 10 years ago or 9 years ago was that there was not these wars at all.
Fuji Xerox.
Fuji Xerox, Cisco. We're in strong partnership with Cisco around cloud computing. We know we're not the best at this thing. These are guys who are pretty good at it. Why would you not work with HCL? We just formed an arrangement with HCL where we literally sent 600 engineers to HCL and said, you work there, you use our engineers to learn something about what we do. Give us scale, give us global footprint. Flextronics. We took all of our manufacturing infrastructure and we said to them, for the office products, take this. We're going to give you everything from the tools to the people, from the people to the tools, I guess. And you take it and you morph it for us and actually make it significantly more relevant. We'll stay with you along the way so that you can actually continue to add value to us, relevant value to us. So this idea that you can innovate inside your four walls, I would be surprised if there's any company who actually thinks that. I know Xerox does.
If you walk around Silicon Valley, you're going to find some. But the Apple is doing a good job at Inhibition Networks. You go to Google, there's a lot of secrecy in these companies, and they don't want ideas moving in and out of it.
I don't know a lot about the new companies. I do know about Xerox and the older companies. I have the benefit of having on my board Bob McDonald, who's the CEO of Procter & Gamble, so I know a lot about Procter & Gamble and about how we help them. We help them through partnering with them, through jointly innovating. If you look at our labs here, the lab in Park, the CEO of Park, Steve Hooper, raise your hand, is here. Park does about half of its research for Xerox, a little less than half. So where the hell does the rest of it go? Who does he do it for? For the government, for companies all over the world, because we know, and these other companies know, and the government knows that they can't actually hold it all themselves. There's very little value in doing that. There's a huge amount of risk, and it's not the most creative environment. If the only thing you can do is talk to to our guys. So I agree that the idea of research, the value chain of research, has fundamentally changed in the world. This whole, I think, this thing that's called partner or perish.
Yeah.
It was publish or perish, now it's publish or perish.
Okay.
It is the reality of the world, not only in manufacturing or in go-to-market schemes, it's the reality in research as well. Fundamentally, you get better ideas, you get better interactions, you have to work with your clients, you have to get different thought processes, you have to get access to different ways of doing things so that you can actually be the most creative. So I absolutely agree. I also agree, I actually agree.
So as a CEO, you have to reach out to
you have to reach out,
partnership.
and if you don't do that, by the way, I think you can be a very successful company and not reach out. But I think you can be an even more successful company if you do reach out, including the people who you don't particularly like.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, you can't get too wrapped up in that. You have to respect them, but you don't have to like them. But so you work together and reach out. The idea of a transformer also absolutely required. Not all transformers, but I don't think that the value chain, I don't think that any space in these four places is better than the other or more important than the other. I think it is important to have them all.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily important that you do them all. So very often, and one of the things that happened to Xerox early in its days, this is 50 years, I don't know how many years ago it was, when it was very unusual to partner, we thought of things that we couldn't get to market. Now, there will not be a thing that we think of that somehow or the other, if it's valuable, doesn't find its way to market. We'll either bring it to market, or we literally will form a joint venture, license it, you name it, because it'll get out there and it'll create some value for us. But it'll create some value for us and some value for you.
So the speed is most important. You know it's going to be out there with somebody. You got to do it
We're
fast.
going to do it. We have to do it fast, and we have to figure out a way to monetize it in the most appropriate way.
Yeah.
I am not convinced. I am 100% convinced. All right. So I'm not convinced of the contrary. I'm 100% convinced that not everything that we create we can make into a business. I'm 100% convinced of that. And I have labs around the world, 5 of them, that actually have a major piece of their mission to find things that we will never use but can make some money somehow or the other. That's what they go with. That's what Park, that's one of the things that Park does. They're in clean tech, they're in solar, they're in batteries. What the hell, we don't do that.
Right.
And probably won't ever do it as a full-time thing. We don't know the customer set, we don't know the value chain of that. We will partner with somebody who does, though. We'll get somebody who will help us be the transformer in these business areas. So I do believe that it's important to actually have this chain, to be fairly democratic, to not be selfish, and
not to take too much of the profit yourself. And
yeah, I mean, this idea about, I wish it was as easy as that. I think that you could say, oh, I can take all the profit for ourselves. You couldn't. It's just not possible to do. I mean, you can't be competitive. You can't be as global as you want to be. You can't serve as many clients as you want if you try to do it all yourself.
So we're going to take questions in a moment. But before we do that, I want to ask a question to you and also to myself. And that is, what is going to happen in the next 10 years? What is your vision of the next 10 years?
So it's interesting.
You go and then I'll go.
Yeah, I usually say how ridiculous of you to ask me a question about the next 10 years where I couldn't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. But I won't do that to you.
You can stop right there, but I'll talk.
You know, I think that in the next 10 years we will have, we will be right in the midst of a set of severe problems that will be on the cusp of being solved. And the problems will be around.
So you're pessimistic in the 10 years, but positive in the 20 years.
Yeah, and I think that the pessimism, I'm not pessimistic like, the world is going to come to an end, or there's going to be a dark cloud. I just think that it will take us longer than it should to solve some of the problems, but I think that we are now realizing that they are problems. So we'll have an energy crisis in this country in the next 10 years. Crisis. prices will be higher than most people, particularly the poorer people, can afford to actually
Heating, oil,
operate.
gas, et cetera.
Heating, oil,
Yeah,
gas,
yeah.
anything that change,
Mm.
so it will drive up the cost of foods. I think we're also in a food problem.
Yeah.
That will drive an ecological problem.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
So we just don't have a good way of growing, distributing, food in a sustainable way.
We're talking globally.
Globally.
Yeah,
Yeah, and unfortunately, based on how we're managing our farm systems, I mean, we better
Yeah,
depend on.
we'll be in trouble here, too.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I do believe, though, and, you know, education will be at the cusp of, the good news is we'll be at the cusp of change on all of these things.
Mhm.
Because for the first time in a long time, I think people are actually talking about them as real problems, not political footballs. They're still political footballs, but they're speaking about them as real problems, and people are trying to come together, throwing away boundaries to work together to try to solve energy problems and food problems. So I'm actually fairly hopeful about it. I do believe that this idea about innovation, this pace of innovation, and the tethers that we have to home and all this will be almost totally broken. I don't think that they will exist at all anymore. I think that even these things that we all have will be fundamentally different. They'll obviously be small, but they'll be so natural to the way that work is done, and the way that play is done, and the way that we communicate, and that things will fundamentally change.
Yeah, so my vision of the future really involves those types of devices.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you all saw this, but there's a couple of computer scientists that I think are IEEE, and they've been benchmarking supercomputers for 30 years.
Mhm.
And they benchmarked, this is the iPad 2, they benchmarked this and said this is running at 1.65 gigaflops, or billions of floating point instructions per second.
Pretty impressive.
Well, in 1994, this would have been equivalent to a 8-core Cray 2. Remember that bench around?
Mhm.
In 1993, this would have been classed as one of the top 33 supercomputers in the world.
Mhm.
So so my thesis, and I'm going to get kind of parochial here about tech, is that we're about to go through an architectural shift. And the Microsoft model of all executables or programs on the desktop is dead because it doesn't leverage the cloud.
Okay.
That's dead. The cloud model is also not going to be the answer.
No, it's a transition point.
You know why? Because of these devices.
Yeah.
If you look at the basic curves, Moore's law, we have a doubling of processing every 1.5 years.
Mhm.
There's actually a curve above Moore's law, which I call Hitachi's law, which says that storage is doubling every 1.2 years.
Mhm.
That says the periphery of the network is getting incredibly intelligent.
Mhm.
So if you're saying it's all going to be in the cloud or all going to be in the web, you're completely wrong. We think the future architecture, we call it app internet, which says very powerful devices with very powerful apps, which are interpolating with the cloud transparently.
Yeah.
And that is the future of architecture. And we believe the web is a dying technology. That the web will be always here, but that is not the final answer because the web is too based at the center. And I thought Google came out with a Chromebook. Questions?
I'm just looking at Steve because we talked about this.
Oh, you
exactly
did?
earlier.
Well, Google came out with a Chromebook, I don't know, a month ago. That was the highest class of corporate idiocy I've ever seen. I mean, because they're denying this, which is crazy. So my view of the next 10 years is, but this is the story of tech. This has been the next story of Xerox, that the world doesn't stop turning. It keeps turning, innovation keeps happening, and those who are successful will be less successful, and they can hope that they will bounce back and be successful.
You have to
together.
transform.
That is the story.
I actually think that there is a problem in this story.
Yeah.
And that's that the story actually gives us access to data. But when I say us, it gives us human beings with the flops.
Gigaflops, right.
Yeah, we're at a 0.1 of the flop. I mean, we still process and think and work, can sort in a certain pace.
Yes.
It's getting faster, by the way, but it's still, even my kids are not capable of looking at, sorting through, accessing, retrieving all the crap that we're giving them. I mean, we literally, with all of this great stuff, we still have to get it interfaced to a person.
Right.
Who can use it and make it useful and make it usable. And I think that the miracle is not going to be in what's capable in these computers. I think the miracle, the big transformations, and this is one of the things that we're working on, is how do you use it? How do you, how does
How you
your-
interface
how do
with
you
it, right?
interface
The man
with
machine
it?
interface problem.
Yeah, how do you actually sort through that, all the crap? Is there an easy way
Yeah.
to align all this stuff around a subject or around, because having it all is really great, but you can't, today you can't use it all. People used to say to me all the time, so E is equal to MC squared, you remember what M is and, you know, and
Yeah.
compare it. And so what's the speed of light? I always say to my son, well, I said to him, I know that number, why don't you know it? He would say to me, Mom, I don't need to know it, I can just look at it on the computer. No, at least he knows what it is he's looking for, right? We're gonna have access to so much stuff that if we don't figure out a way to know what we're looking for, it's gonna be totally useless to us. And so I think it will have lots of access points, but we have to work as hard on the sorting points.
But maybe the intelligence that we have with us will do that. I mean,
But somebody better be working on that. I tell you.
It's a good opportunity.
Yeah. I
Okay,
think it's a
now,
great opportunity.
questions,
That's
Karen,
what
I don't
think
want
it's
to
a great
talk to you.
opportunity. Louisa, this is like Steve Hoover, the head of the CEO of Park. We speak a lot about
Oh,
this
yeah.
subject exactly.
Yeah.
About, content, how much of it is out there, and how do you actually interface and deal with it.
Great opportunity. Okay.